An impending divorce is a nasty situation to be in, and on the evening of June 18, 2018, Deborah De Pinto and her husband, Scott Beaumont Jones, found themselves at the worst possible end of that situation, and the end of one of their lives.
Please help me! He's not breathing! Please help me!
It was a wet, muddy, overcast day, and the couple and their two kids had been cooped up in a tiny, undersized travel trailer for too long. The kids were getting ready to go spend some time with Deb's parents. Laundry needed to be done, and everyone needed some space of their own. Their teenage daughter went outside and sat in Deb's car, getting away from the tension inside the trailer, hiding out from the storms that brewed up on a regular basis within the tiny family home. Deb leaves the trailer and heads to the trailer park's office where the laundry room is. She's got to rotate some laundry so the kids will have something to wear on vacation they will be going on in just a couple of hours. Scott follows her quickly. She's had enough of him, but he's trying to press the case. She wants out of this relationship. She wants him gone from her life. He wants to stay and is willing to keep the argument going, just like many times before. Maybe he can make one more plea before the kids leave for the week. He knows that once they're out of town, his stay in the family trailer is possibly done as well. They will come back, and she'll leave him thrown out for good. But this is the kind of miserable day that only gets worse. The kind of day that would be his wife's last, and one he can never, ever take back. Before we begin, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the children and loved ones of Deborah De Pinto, a hardworking, loving mother who deserved so much better. Boulder County is situated in north-central Colorado and is the home to just over 300,000 people on a full-time basis. It's home to the Rocky Mountain National Park and 4 other nationally protected wilderness areas and forests. Located at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, its county seat is Boulder, Colorado, and is home to about 100,000 people on its own. A vibrant college town, its largest employer is the University of Colorado at Boulder, a place where Deb De Pinto worked for 10 years as a chef in the campus food services. Over her long years with the community, she's also worked with a number of other restaurants in town, both prior to and during her time with the university. She met Scott Jones at a New Year's Eve party in 1998, and the two hit it off quickly. The two would date for some time and then marry. Their first child, a daughter, would come along shortly thereafter. A son would be born just a few years after that. While we know from local reports that Deb had a long history of employment in the area, the same could not be said for Scott. In researching this story, we could find no listings of his employment or statements from coworkers. Prior to the incident on June 18, 2018, the only notes of interest were a handful of arrest reports for property crimes a few years before, but there were no convictions. It appears that the two and their children had been living in a small travel trailer for some time. Most of the time, they would park it in the foothills area of the county, but would come back into town from time to time to stay at the Ponderosa Mobile Home Park. Located at 4475 Broadway in Boulder, the trailer park isn't very remarkable, catering to the kind of working folks that keep a college town like Boulder running, along with a number of retirees and even a few students. It also provided a place for Deb and Scott to park their trailer when they needed to be back in town. The cramped quarters of the trailer didn't offer much in the line of luxuries or even some necessities, like doing mounds of laundry that the family of 4 creates on a normal basis. It was during one of these times the family had come back to the Ponderosa. The relationship between the two had been on a downward slide for the past couple of years. Scott had become possessive, jealous, and cruel, according to reports from Deb's friends. Deb put in long hours, tried to be a good mom, and she just had about enough of Scott's demands, failures, and his inability to put a roof over their heads. The fights had turned vicious, at least vocally. Local police were never called to any reports of domestic violence between the two. The arguments were kept out of the public eye, but the kids didn't have much of a way to be out of the line of fire except to retreat to the family car or take walks in the surrounding area. Scott would often send threatening texts to Deb, pointed, mean-spirited messages that would eventually come out at the public trial. "You're rotten to the core. Ain't no cop or restraining order gonna stop what's coming," he texted her once. "I don't care what happens to me at all. I'm a man with nothing to lose except my life." This was the environment that the family was living under when their daughter retreated to the family car and Deb stormed off to the trailer park office, Scott shortly behind her. The mobile home park had had its share of troubles over the years, just like any neighborhood, but a string of thefts had prompted the owner of the trailer park to install a set of security cameras looking out onto the lot. Things from the lot's office had also gone missing over time, and the owner had installed a hidden security camera specifically to watch that area. Had he not done so, a horrible crime might have gone simply chalked up to a very unfortunate medical emergency. Inside, the camera, disguised behind a cutout of Ghirardelli chocolates, captured what happened next.
I thought there was some common sense with you.
Well, I thought he knew that you don't remember being there.
He doesn't know.
I didn't. So that's why you told me.
The argument continues as Deb goes into the laundry room. She thinks that she's had this fight 100 times already, but something snaps inside Scott. The hidden camera doesn't see exactly what happens, but the microphone recorded the sounds.
What are you doing over there? I'm getting one. Get out of here, Miss Common Sense. We're fighting for an hour over nothing. I'm done. We are never going to be together.
You're so cruel. Is that all you got, cruel and mean?
You're getting my way.
Weird. Who's in here?
You're getting out of there. No, whatever. Get away from me.
Get away from me.
And then, what should have never happened. Scott repositions himself in the narrow entryway to the laundry room.
Don't touch me, Scott. You can't force me to love you anymore. Get out of the... Where's the door? I'm trapped. Get away from me. You make me feel terrible. Get away from the door.
Scott wraps his hands around Deb's neck and proceeds to strangle the life out of her. She fights back. She struggles, but is getting weaker and weaker until finally she loses consciousness. He releases her throat as she falls to the floor, foam on the edges of her mouth. Any breath she's taking is so slight and struggled that Scott doesn't even notice. He spends the next 47 minutes in the room with her, never saying anything, just trying to figure out what he will do, what he just did, and who he became in that moment. Deborah De Pinto, 44 years old and a mother of two, lie dying on a concrete floor of the trailer park's back room. Her husband, 47-year-old Scott Jones, has been looking at the inevitability of a divorce court just hours before. Now what he faces is irrevocably worse. He had one last idea, one last chance to change the narrative of what happened that night and to change his own fate, or so he thought.
Oh my God.
Scott rushes out of the office and back to the travel trailer. He grabs his son and screams that something has happened to Deb, his mom. In what would later be a child abuse charge, Scott takes his young son to where his mother lay on the concrete.
He's gone, man. Oh my God. my God. Oh 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 my God. Please, Mama, wake up. Mama, please. Oh God. Please. Oh God. Please do help us. Mama, God. Please.
It is a heartbreaking moment. The son is pleading for his mother's life, and Scott is playing along. He knows what he's done, but he is setting a stage. He knows that the 911 call will bring paramedics and possibly, or probably, police. His son sends a text message to his sister asking, "Where are you?" "Mom's dead." She didn't answer, though, and explained later that she thought her father had sent it and she didn't want him to find her, so she never even looked at it. First on the scene is a Boulder County deputy named Mike Terry. Deputy Terry heads straight back through the office into the laundry room space to render assistance.
Hello? Hello?
Please help me.
Did you find her here?
I don't know.
An ambulance arrives just moments later, and EMTs rush to provide more assistance. Scott pours on the performance as they go to work on her. She's either barely clinging to life at this point, or it had just begun to slip away.
You've got to help my wife. You've got to help my wife.
They got
My whole life, dude. Please help her. Please. Oh my God.
Take a deep breath, okay? The best people that can possibly be working on her, okay? We got paramedics on her, all right?
Oh my God.
Let's see what's going on. We got her.
Bro, should be holding her hand or something.
I know, but they're taking care of her right now, okay?
Mama.
Scott felt this was the time to offer his explanation of what happened, and he tried to double down on this being a health issue rather than an assault.
She's like 220 pounds, man. I told her, man, you gotta take care. Oh God. That's my whole life in there, man. That's my whole life. Oh my God, Mama. Oh God.
It's not going to get her in trouble, okay?
I don't know. Are we sure about it? Smokes that damn pipe where they heat up the end and they stick it in that stuff.
A bunch of them get smoked that way. Could it be heroin, though?
I don't think so. I don't know, man.
Okay.
They had done all they could for Deb at the scene and decided that if she were to have any chance at surviving, she would need more extensive and intensive trauma care. She was loaded into the back of an ambulance on the scene and taken to the Boulder Community Health Foothills Hospital. It would be to no avail, though. Deborah De Pinto would be declared dead not long after arrival. While her medical history did include that she suffered from an enlarged heart and was over 200 pounds, the experienced medical and rescue workers could tell that the actual cause of her death was suspicious. Scott was taken back to the sheriff's office to get a statement, while workers from the local Child Protective Services Department would take both children to a safe location and look after them. In the earliest part of this scenario, Scott would tell Boulder Sheriff's Department Detective Don Dillard once again that Deb had begun experiencing a medical issue while doing the laundry.
I don't know, dude. Like, she went like this. She started going like that and stuff.
I didn't know about it. Any discussions about your relationship, how things are going?
No.
He once again declares his love for her, playing the part of the concerned, innocent husband who just happened to be there.
I love my wife and she loves me, man. And I have no idea how that went down like that today, dude.
Okay.
When she fell, yeah, she was face down, she fell. Just, I'm tired. I want to get my kids home. And I've answered a lot of questions. I've been very cooperative.
The detective knows something is up, though, and presses just a bit to see how Scott will react if a faint light of suspicion is thrown his way.
Did something happen in that room that...
No way, man. No way.
I mean, I know accidents happen. If you're arguing, did something happen that went too far? Did she have a heart attack and die?
No, man.
No charges are being filed at this point, and the detectives allow Jones to move around for a while as they finish some paperwork. And then they get a call from the manager of the trailer park.
I put up a Google Drive, I downloaded the video. It's an hour long if you need more. I just got chills up in my spine. I couldn't watch it.
A download of the video taken at the scene is quickly provided to the sheriff's department, and there's no longer any doubt in the detectives' minds that Scott's story is pretty far from the truth. They call him back in again and show him the tape.
So this is the video that we were talking about.
He's trapped, and he knows it, but it doesn't stop him from trying to deny it.
That doesn't prove anything, and you know that.
It shows us that something happened in that room. What's going on during that time?
No, man.
But Scott, you do know.
You can almost see him break as he begins rocking in his chair. There is no defending himself now.
This entire time you're still there with her. What are you doing? Are you looking at her? Are you trying to figure out what to do next? Help me.
He knows it's time to lawyer up.
Hey, where do we go from here, man? I need a lawyer, don't I? Do me a favor, stand up.
Do you want to keep talking to him? Because if you do, I have to read you.
Where do we go? Let's talk our options, discuss our options then.
In just a matter of a few hours, Scott Jones has strangled his own wife to death, ruined the lives of his 2 children, and set himself on a path either to life in prison or the death penalty. He struggles to explain himself and what happened.
What happened?
I don't know. You think I am not kicking out of myself? You don't think I feel bad?
Well, I know you are.
Oh man, it wasn't good enough. I'm taking the kids. You ain't taking my kids. Threatening me, with me, man. With me. Just couldn't stop being a monster. Just couldn't stop being cruel, man. You don't know what she's done to me. You don't know the cruelty she's done, man. I believe it makes a man temporarily insane for a minute, man, when you think about it. You know that? You don't know the troubles. You don't know the pain. You don't know what I've endured. You don't know what that woman put me through. You don't know what she did to my son. You don't know. But I didn't think anything through. I didn't think about anything. I just reacted. I don't know what happened. I just reacted. I don't know, man. It's nuts.
Scott would be arrested and charged with second-degree murder in the death of Deborah De Pinto. In the coming days, the coroner's autopsy report would indicate that she had, in fact, died of asphyxiation by strangulation. Investigators for the Sheriff's Department and the local district attorney's office would turn the recordings over to experts at the Rocky Mountain Information Network, where forensic audio and video analyst David Weller would work to isolate the sounds of Deb and Scott. He would peel away the layers of background noise from the washer and dryer and isolate the voices of the couple. It would serve as the main evidence in the upcoming trial. The district attorney's office would up the charges to first-degree murder in pretrial hearings, arguing that testimony from the friends of Deb had pointed to a history of growing resentment and anger on Scott's part. The text messages helped to bolster the case, as did the comments from some saying that he had told them he could just strangle her for what she was doing to him. When the matter went to trial, it would become part of the jury's duty not to just determine whether Scott had murdered his wife, but to determine whether it had been premeditated first-degree murder, or had it been second-degree murder that came from a moment of rage and anger. Premeditation in cases like this do not necessarily require a considerable length of deliberation, but depend more on if the person committing the crime had a reasonable chance to think through the action, the likely outcome, and the opportunity to back out before doing it. The distinction between the two is vital, not just in the severity of the crime, but in the severity of the sentence. In Colorado law, at the time of this murder, first-degree murder carried a minimum of life sentence, and it could result in the death penalty. Second-degree murder, depending on the circumstances, by Colorado law, can result in a prison sentence running from 12 to 48 years. In court, the prosecution would lay out the case that branded Scott as a murderer, one who had been building up to this confrontation. They argued that it is reasonable to assume that Scott had pursued Deb into the building to continue the argument, and that he had, based on his statements he had made previously, at least considered killing his wife before the incident, perhaps multiple times before the incident. Defense attorneys April Coleman and Catherine Harold would argue that while Scott had argued and fought with Deb, including choking her, he had not intended to kill her, but that her heart condition and physical condition could have turned this situation into a fatal incident. They argued that the killing arose from a fit of anger and passion, that Scott had lost control of himself in his rage about the failing relationship. Scott would never take the stand in defense for himself before both sides rested their case. It would take the jury 10 hours of deliberation to come to their decision. Early on, they would send a request back to the judge for guidance on determining the difference between first and second-degree murder. They would then come back with a judgment of guilty of second-degree murder for Scott Jones in the death of Deborah De Pinto. Local news would later report that through the early part of the deliberations, the vote had been 11-1 in favor of first-degree murder. But one juror held out. Eventually, the group would come to a consensus that second-degree murder would be the charge. The jury also found him guilty of a charge of felony child abuse for taking his son into the scene of the crime. On March 9, 2020, Scott Jones would be sentenced to serve 48 years for the murder of Deborah De Pinto and 1 additional year for the child abuse charge. While Jones may never see life outside of a Colorado State Penitentiary again, he leaves behind 2 young children who will carry the scars of this incident them throughout their lives. It is a bitter end to a relationship that began on a New Year's Eve celebration and ended on a wet, muddy day at a trailer park on the outskirts of town. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Also hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.